What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Thursday, almost the end of the week. Bit breezy today, but nice temperatures. Tonight for dinner, baked potatoes and pork kebab. So these things have been marinating for about 5.5, 6 hours, and I'm going to skewer them up on wooden skewers. I think they're made out of bamboo. They make everything out of bamboo. I remember watching Missing in Action, Chuck Norris, the second one, which is my favorite. And the jail cells, or whatever you want to call those, they were made out of bamboo. So very strong. It has a very strong sound when it hits the table. So I saw Missing in Action, the first one, in 1984. A friend of mine took me, and he wouldn't tell me what the movie was. It was kind of like a surprise. So he bought the tickets, and then I went in without looking at the name, sat down, and I was impressed. Good movie. Had no idea who Chuck Norris was before that point. I was not really into these karate guys. I mean, I knew Bruce Lee and Kwai Chang Caine. I knew him, Master Po, Master Khan, but I had no idea who Chuck Norris was. And then, in the unusual twist, the sequel that came out was better than the original, for me. I mean, that rarely happens where the original is not as good as the second movie, but it's happened a few times. The other one being The Godfather 2. I thought, for me, The Godfather 2 was better than the first one. Anyway, so we got all these pieces, good chunks so they don't dry out, and we begin. Get that nice rich looks like chicken a little bit. That's why they call it the other white meat. And pork, relatively low in fat. Not a lot of marbling in these oh, that looks big enough. I had a dream the other night that the house next door, which in my dream looked different than what's actually there, but it was falling apart. It was a lot of holes in it. People were living there, but it was falling apart. And then at some point in the dream, the house started to bend side to side. You know, a little bit of a breeze, and it was bending this way and that way, and everybody thought it was going to collapse. And I was thinking, what happened to the people inside? But no one was in there anymore. My mind eliminated the people inside. I wonder if when you're dreaming, the characters inside your brain think that the reality is real, that they actually exist, or is there no consciousness? I mean, if I'm having a dream about, 5 or 6 people in my dream, do those people at that specific time in my dream think that they are alive and that they've been alive for years? It's like a Twilight Zone episode. I love the Twilight Zone, especially the ones that had some kind of time travel involved. There was one where the guy goes back in time and he sees himself at a amusement park, and he starts chasing himself, and his kid self falls and hurts his knee, and then a moment later the guy that's chasing himself is limping because the knee injury was in the past and now he has it. But I love time travel movies. That's why I like Back to the Future. the paradox of time travel. That's why, you know, I mean, it's a paradox, but who says time travel is possible? I mean, going back in time, we know forward in time, traveling at the speed of light, time dilation, that's possible if you can get that fast. But going backwards, I don't know. But it would be cool. Then you would be incredibly knowledgeable. You would know all the outcomes. I mean, if you went back in time, you would know all the outcomes of presidential elections, lottery numbers, like Michael J. Fox's character. He knew all the sports outcomes because he had that almanac book. And then Biff took it. You know, they made good movies. If I could travel back in time, I would. I mean, the past is interesting too because you would be able to figure out what was happening with events that hadn't occurred yet. But future is also fascinating. Like they go 1,000 years ahead of time. Like Terminator, time travel movie. Although, if you're going to do time travel movies, you know that they're not going to make sense. The Terminator, going back at that specific time, you know, they could have sent 10 Terminators back at different times and killed, what was his name, John Connor? Why pick that time? They could have gone back and killed like a relative, like a great-great-great-great-grandfather, and that would have eliminated him. They didn't have to go back and kill him specifically. But then they wouldn't have had a movie. Looks very good. Nice, solid meat. Put olive oil in that too. For me, the greener the olive oil, the better the flavor. I like olive oil to be heavy duty. Like if olive oil had a number, I want it to be 2050, 20W50. Like these guys that know their craft, you know, you ever see these guys, mechanics. I mean, mechanics are a dime a dozen. My father knew a few people that were mechanics, but they sucked. They weren't that good. You know, it was like the knowledge they had, you could have gained if you had maybe 3 weeks experience looking at someone fix cars. They weren't that impressive. But I like people like Cooter. Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard was able to do anything. One time he even made the General Lee four-wheel drive. That's what I'm impressed with, those kind of mechanics. There's another good example, the Fonz, good mechanic. Then there's a guy on the internet, I can't think of his name right now. He's got a kind of like a squeaky, kind of talks like, I don't know, kind of like a squeaky voice. But he knows this stuff inside out. Inside out. I watch him all the time. Now I gotta look up his name so anybody watching can go watch him. Watching me can go watch him. Just, you can tell, knows this stuff inside out. And we had a guy like that in my neighborhood. He knew his stuff inside out. Inside out. You could have blindfolded him and he would have rebuilt the whole engine. And I could mention his name. I don't even know if he's still in business, but his name, and I was a huge fan of his, Junior D'Amato. Junior D'Amato used to work at this place, and I'd have the radio playing in the background, and he had a radio show, and I would listen to him. He was another guy that, he was like a cooter. He was kind of like the guy, if you were a race car driver, you would hire him to keep your engine running in top form. And he had a place. So my father had an issue with his station wagon one time. Nobody could figure out what the problem was. And I said, well, I know somebody who can probably figure it out. So my father goes, take it. So I took the station wagon down to Junior's Automotive, and he was in there, and I recognized him. I said, I got an issue with the station wagon over there, can you take a look at it? And he was able to tell me exactly what the problem was, and then he told me what the price was going to be, and to me it seemed like I had to take a mortgage out. It was that expensive. But you get just what you pay for, right? There's been times when my father took, they had a Mercury Marquis that had issues. That car always had issues, but it was a nice luxury car, but it always had issues. And he took it to the mechanic. It was like in the shop. Every couple of months was in the shop, and everybody was claiming to have solved the problem, but they never did. All these, they call them ham and eggers. But yeah, I'm fascinated with people that know their craft inside out. You know, I mean, you got a lot of people doing certain kind of jobs, and they're good, but not that good. You know what I'm saying? Not that good. Mechanics, that's a popular place. Like nowadays, they don't even know what they're doing. They just stick in the scanner, and it tells them replace this chip, replace that, and they just take things out and put them back, put brand new pieces back in, and that's it. But in the old days, they actually had to fix things. So now we're down to the smaller pieces. These are the ones that are at the end, and they're just not big enough to cut big. So leftovers, snack. So that's a little one. So that's it. Smells good. So basically, I used simple ingredients: salt, pepper, oregano, and garlic. That's it. If you have to put too much stuff, then the chances are you're eating lamb. I am not a fan of lamb. I'm not a fan of gamey stuff. I mean, I'll eat it if we're starving and the year is 1940. But, you know, my thing is like chicken. Pork, I have it, but not that often. You know, it's good. I just don't have it that often. And beef from a steer. Nice big bull. You know, get the New York strips, or the filet mignon, or the ribeye. But you know, that stuff tastes good, especially when they age it just right. The stuff I don't like, buffalo. I had buffalo. Did not like it. I've had ostrich, not bad. I've had alligator. That wasn't bad. Told my mother it was chicken. She loved it. What else have I had? Buffalo. I did not like buffalo. Did I mention buffalo before? I had buffalo one time in Oklahoma, I think. There was a place and it had like buffalo on the outside. And we stopped there, me and my bride. And this is many years ago. And we ordered buffalo burgers. And I started eating it. It was very gamey. You know, I had to imagine it was something else. And I've had, what else? Bison. Thumbs up on the bison. Bison is awesome. It's very low in fat, very lean, very flavorful. You don't cook it that long because it'll dry out because it's low in fat. So I've had that. You know, I cooked it a little bit and it was very juicy. What else have I had? I don't think I've had anything else. Turkey, had turkey. Like turkey, you have to cook it right, otherwise it dries out, because that's very lean. Any other animal? I've had rabbit when I was little. Somebody made it. Wasn't really a fan of rabbit. I had moose once. I liked it. The person that made it, maybe they made it the right way, but it was really good. Moose. But overall, for me, it's beef, chicken, pork, in that order. And like I said, I don't have pork that often, but you know, it's fine. Nothing against it. I just, you know, I don't find the pork attractive. And I've never had exotic stuff like squirrel, porcupine, never had that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's about it. Yeah, one time, I mentioned this before, but my father and his friends, this is a long time ago. I was like a little kid, like 6 years old. We ended up going out somewhere and they brought me to a soup kitchen. And the soup was made out of some kind of pork, but pork, I don't know if it was the hooves, the nose, the ears, some weird stuff in there. And everybody was saying, oh, you gotta love this, it's so good. And they put it in front of me, and just the smell and the foaminess turned me off. Oh, I've had liver, things like that, but from a cow. I've never had bear. I have a magazine that talks about barbecuing bear. The meat, when you see it, looks a little fatty, but it looks, you know, okay. But then when they tell you it's bear, you're not interested in having it. I do not want to eat bear. You know, like I said, beef for me is fine. So we're gonna cook it. All right.